Chris Rock entered the waiting room.
Hello, Chris. I was just saying, Nicole, do I need to get all my Will Smith jokes out of the way in the first 30 seconds?
Thank God for it.
It was bad enough probably with Chris Rock, but now that Will Smith is going out and slapping Chris Rock, anyways. All right, I'm done. I digress.
Come on, you must have a few more.
Hey, it's Nicole. Welcome back to the show. So excited to introduce you to today's guest, Chris Rock. Yeah, Chris Rock. Okay. Not that Chris Rock and not that famous slap at all. We got a cooler Chris Rock. In fact, let me tell you, he is a cyber mercenary. I wasn't even sure I could open up his bio. He has worked in the Middle East, US, and Asia for the last 30 years for both government and private organizations. He is the Chief Information Security Officer and co-founder of SIEMonster. I can't wait to dive in. He's actually been invited to TED Talk Global to give a talk, and then he was uninvited. Listen in to the show. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you. Hey, just a reminder, our show is brought to you by SmartCookie Media, where we believe data tells a story, and not just any story, your business story. As a subscriber to the show or as a client, you'll get insights on profitable, data-driven marketing strategies that work for you and your business, your industry. Not some cookie cutter trends, no. Ideas that are led by your customer data so you know they'll work for you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram to learn more. Everything's in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the show. Welcome, Chris. So glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited.
Let's start the show the way we do with every single guest. Chris, tell me, how would you finish the sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur when?
You can wear the same clothes every day to work and no one cares.
Love it. I love it when it's so fundamental. It just so basic. Yes, I love it.
What is the ultimate choice over at your place?
Well, I listened to some of your podcasts and I heard someone say yoga pants, and I love yoga pants. They're so cool.
She did. She sure did. Michelle Vroom.
Yeah. So what is the actual out and or uniform of the at-home entrepreneur of Chris Rock?
A hoodie and yoga pants and shorts.
Okay.
Doesn't matter whether it's summer or winter, just shorts.
Okay.
Shorts.
Love it.
Oh my gosh. We have to address the accent in the room. You're from Australia?
That's right. Spot on.
Yeah. Are you there now?
I'm in Melbourne right now.
Great. We're right outside Chicagoland. So we're looking into winter coming very, very quickly. So when you said winter or summer, I pictured warmth all the time for you.
Although here we also do tend to wear shorts quite a bit when most people are thinking we're crazy.
That's true.
The first 40-degree day we get in late February, March, you'll see everybody in shorts around Chicago. That's shorts weather.
Oh my gosh. So true. So Chris, tell me, what is it that you do? What businesses do you own?
So the current business I'm running is a company called SIEMonster, SIEMonster. We run a security software monitoring tool, and it's used by companies to detect hackers in their network and also all events within a network. And my night job is I'm a security researcher. So I do research on information security topics and then present those to hacking conferences around the world.
Unreal. I can't even imagine. So tell me, what are some examples of companies you said, but industries maybe that we can kind of put you in this spot where we can understand best?
All industries. So we look after hospitals in the US, Canada. We look after a UMass in the US university. We look after about 100 and something banks in the US, and then customers all around the world.
So tell me, what led you to entrepreneurship?
Yes, I've been a hacker my whole life since I was 13, illegally and then legally. I was in the banking sector for about 10 years, and I watched companies come and do what we call penetration tests, where they'd actually do hacking exercises against the company. They had no idea what they were doing. The skill set was really poor. And at that time, this was 20 years ago, I saw a need in the market, but I didn't have that entrepreneurial brain yet. It was just I see a need, but I don't know what to do with it. I know a lot of people who are listening to the show are already entrepreneurs and they may resonate with this, but something has to click inside of you that it's time. And it happened to me. I was working in one bank and my contract was up for renewal. And my boss went to the CEO of the bank because you needed a CEO sign off to get a contract extended. And my boss said to the CEO, "We really need this guy. He's awesome." And the CEO rightly said, "If he's so good, why doesn't he work for himself?" And I heard that statement relayed back to me and I'm thinking, shit, she's right. And then everything just clicked into place, 20 years ago. And I started my first penetration testing company and we picked up clients in the Middle East, American Express and stuff like that. And then the business just kicked off from there.
Wow.
Unreal. I love it when we hear these one line from somebody that they just they don't even know what they started.
No, it just resonated with me.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the rest is history. I've been doing this stuff for now, 20 odd years, and I freaking love it. I love the fact that I've had 10 years within a corporate environment on how things should be done. And then I take some of those skill sets, good and bad, into startup world. I love startup world because you get to play with everything. You're doing marketing, you're doing, legal, you're doing accounting, and you'll learn all these new skills that I would never have experienced in the bank because they protect you from all that sort of stuff. There's, full-time people doing that. Whereas as an entrepreneur, as you all know, it's something new every day.
Yep.
So-
Yep. Absolutely.
So take me back to 13-year-old Chris Rock, like some crazy, government institution came barging into your parents' house, taking away like all your computers. And that's what I'm envisioning. Am I wrong here or did this happen?
Yeah, so there was no bust. I learned from a really young age on what to do and not what to do. So I taught law enforcement how to detect people like me. I'm 50 now, so I was at the beginning. So, hacker 13-year-old Chris learned his way, didn't get caught, and just been doing it ever since.
So what
Incredible.
led you to be like on the straight and narrow from the very beginning? Because it seems like you hear about these stories of people who maybe weren't always that way and have reformed and have now put themselves in a better light. Was there any, were your parents did they have an impact on you, how you're brought up or?
So, Matt, you asked a great question. And that's a common belief that there's the whole bad guy turn good and then straight and narrow, black and white path. I'm not on the straight and narrow. I should make that really clear from the start. I'm both sides of the fence. I do illegal and legal work. I'm not reformed. And I talk to a lot of my community about, the whole reform on the right path. A lot of it's bullshit. Most of them are still doing both, on the white and black side.
I mean, with great power. So, okay,
it's infinite power. I mean, can you just imagine infinite power where you can just go and penetrate an organization, get the details, even a small business. What are they working on? They're looking for a Series C. What's the price? You get all this information and then people want that information.
Right. Yes. I was going to interrupt Matt and be like, Matt, as the attorney on the show, you can't ask that question. That's not fair. But I also read the bio. So I
figured he'd just break it down for us. Like, this is awesome. We got to get, this guy sees the DEFCON. Okay. Like DEFCON is it's just, yeah. So I'm just.
Pretty incredible. So I'm excited to hear more. So you support these business decision makers all over the globe. And I know Matt has one question like he's already itching to ask. So let's start there, Matt, with your question.
Yeah. I mean, you've already name dropped some amazing Amex, you name it and stuff. Like, it's awesome. But then I'm thinking like my small little law office or some of the other maybe smaller companies that are listening to the show today. What are things that they can start to do just in a very, minuscule baby steps just to start to think that we're going in the right direction or give us a false sense of security or hope today, Chris? How about that?
I'll start with the basics and then I'll give you some tips for your organization, especially the smaller size. So I'm going to give you the obvious ones first, and I'd be negligent if I didn't. The first thing is always use two-factor authentication on everything, just to get in the good habit. I don't care whether it's your phone number. I don't care if it's a Google Authenticator app. You must use that. Second of all, use a password manager, such as 1Password or Password Vault. You have one complex password that accesses all your passwords. Hackers like me go through the dark web. For example, Matt or Nicole will look for your email and password, common passwords you've used. I can tell you now, at your age, you probably have about maybe 50 websites that have been compromised in your lifetime that I can see passwords you've used. So that password manager where you don't even know your password to TripIt or internet banking, you just don't know what it is. You just copy and paste it. A VPN. Always use a VPN on your phone or your computer for two reasons. For those who don't know what a VPN is, it essentially encrypts your traffic from A to B. So if you're at a coffee shop or if you're at a hotel in Bali or Hawaii or something like that, you don't have idiots like me sniffing your traffic. So your credit card won't get scammed or something like that. And second, always have your backup of your data on an external hard disk, even if it's at your home. I don't care what it is, but have an external hard disk, one of those Thunderbolt drives. I think I've got one here. Something like that. So, get out of jail free card. You've got all your data off site. The thing for small businesses that I see a lot where they get scammed is they will hack into your email account and they will see in conversations between, say, you and your lawyer, you and your accountant, you and your gym, you and your whatever. So they'll see conversations where that you've decided to buy a new kitchen and you'll see an invoice for that new kitchen, and the hackers will get in the middle of that conversation and say, hey, Matt or Nicole, look, we've changed our bank account details. Please pay your deposit here instead of here. And you'll then just respond and you'll pay. So my advice is if you get any change of payment details, that you don't ring from anything in that original email, but ring of a conversation you've had on a mobile number or phone number you've used before to say, did you send me this? That is the most common scam we see. is the plastic's being removed.
So, yeah. So I'm going to tell you right now, I can't go into a lot of details. I was counsel for a company at one point in time. I've been through some interesting cyber issues. I'll leave it at that, whereby we have to have a written cyber response ready to go, right? We're going to do every single time. One of the big ones that everyone knows by now, I work in the real estate industry in some capacity. And so that's a very common one.
Huge.
But years ago, it was not common. I was at the very forefront of like seeing a lot of things starting to happen very quickly, very fast. And we're like, okay, we have to start changing some major policies because people are getting wire instructions hacked like crazy. The one that I recall that I was involved with, it was a large major banking institution in the US. And when they did the investigation with the FBI, they determined that the hacker had access to the person's email account for over a year and a half. They could pinpoint where it all occurred. A year and a half, they lay dormant, waiting for the right person, the right time, the right opportunity. And it was a 6-figure wire. It was interesting to learn that they can lie in wait for so long.
It's beautiful to watch. It's a skill, and I know it's a nasty skill. What's interesting is then you look when the money was transferred and where did it go? Did it go to a US person? Did it go to Hong Kong? There's some banks in Hong Kong where it's easy to do things than others. And you just watch that behavior of the money flow, the transfer, and where you then run into jurisdiction headaches when you're dealing with foreign countries who don't really care that your customer's out 6 figures. They'll do it on their time frame. 6 weeks later, that money's been withdrawn from ATMs all over. As a professional hacker, I see this all the time. That money's just gone. It's an insurance job at this stage.
And so then that's what caused the ripple effect within our company. We started looking at, okay, do we all go to corporate email addresses? Do we not? Some people are independent contractors. Can we force them to use company email addresses? It just gets interesting on some of those other next layers of trying to be preventative within the business.
I know exactly what you're saying. And there's a lot of bad habits out there too. Look, I've seen some cultures will have an email, let's say matt@bank.com. And what they'll do is they'll CC their Hotmail address on every email that goes out, or BCC. So they have an external copy. So, as someone who worked in a bank, I'm not only securing the bank, I'm doing their Hotmail account or whatever they got at home with their kids have access to, the neighbors, Wi-Fi, whatever. It's hell for a security person to keep track of what people are up to. But I agree with you, Matt. That portal, 2-factor, 3-factor, whatever you need to secure that comms. And then, once the bank is registered, it can't be changed. Or you've got to go through this whole paperwork, passport photos, the whole works before you can get that sort of stuff done.
My goodness. So yesterday and many days when I work with a client, I will see one of these things that is not checked off your list. I will see them pull up their iPhone notes for, a laundry list of 50 different passwords. Or I'll tell them like, hey, have you considered 1Password or LastPass? I don't know what that is. That sounds too complicated. And I always just cringe and think I couldn't run my business without it, not only for safety purposes, but like I just manage a whole lot of clients. It's just a whole lot safer for me to be like, I can't get into that. And I think a lot of people, until it happens to them, they just don't really take it that seriously. Can we ask you for recommendation on one of the password vaults you like over another, or your recommendation on how to evaluate one that we choose?
Yeah, I'm vendor agnostic, not tool specific. Both those two that you gave do the job. And look, you always get some publicity, something got hacked or something. Usually it's, a user error, not actually a software error.
Yes.
So 1Password, password vault, even Google, autocomplete password stuff, that's fine as well. They're good enough. They're better than notes on a phone.
Yes, right. Yes. Okay. So I know you said you weren't thinking about being an entrepreneur, but usually I find I get to uncover something that a kid got to see. And I say if kids can see it, they can be it. Is there something in your childhood that gave you the confidence to do the things that you do?
Yeah, so it's not really a memory. It's more of a trait. At 13, I was one of those hyper-focused people. And I think I'd probably be labeled with, autism or ADHD or something like that. I'm the person that you put in front of a computer and then they're just set. So I essentially got good at what I did because I spent so much time in front of it. So as a kid, instead of doing sports and things I probably should have been doing, I probably sat in front of a computer for 18, 20 hours a day. And I was lucky enough to have parents who, if I was quiet, then that's okay. It was actually perfect for me because I didn't want to be outside. I didn't want to be socializing. I just wanted to be playing with computers, playing with the latest tech. So there was not one set thing, but I think it's just that hyper-focus. And that's carried with me throughout my whole career. So whether I'm doing a DEF CON talk, I essentially give my business to my co-founder and said, look, I'm doing some research for the next 4 years. You go do your thing. I'm hyper-focused on this. I will then focus on that topic, finish it, present it, and then go back to the business. That's how I operate.
So how does that dynamic work with your partner? Or like, obviously it sounds like you're the expert. We know this by now. Is the other person running more of the day-to-day business so you can go away and do these things like you talked about?
Yes, I'm actually quite lucky. So my partner, co-founder, is actually my wife, and she's the CEO of the business. So she'll do all the other work that needs to be done. So when I say I'm hyper-focused on my business, I'm still accessible, for questions or can you do this or can you do that? And I can complete those tasks. So I'm not like gone, for 4 years out of the business. She knows it comes with the territory that, I focus on business, focus on research, and they all linking together. Me presenting to hackers brings in marketing, whether I know it or not, will bring in business. I'll give you an example. When I presented my first DEF CON talk, which is in Las Vegas, the biggest hacking conference in the world, I got 2 customers out of that with a value of about $1.5 million. So you can see that just that marketing exposure, for me, not even saying the word SIEMonster, that I can bring customers in by just being myself and saying, oh, this guy's crazy. He knows what he's talking about. And then they just at least come and look at the business.
That's what we all want, right? This person, she's crazy. We just need to hire her. That's what I want. That's the new thing I want people to say. But she's nuts.
Crazy when she's hired. She is nuts.
Let's pay her. Oh my goodness. Okay, incredible. And so talk about, man, husband and wife dynamic too. You just layer it all on. Wow. Dark web partner that is your life partner, your everything. Man, I have to ask a couple questions here.
Ever.
My husband, I don't want to call us day and night, right? Right, Matt? You wouldn't say my husband and I are day and night, but
you both like to talk about money and numbers.
We do like money.
You like money and numbers.
Money and numbers. Yep. But he's very black and white, right? So very, the dollars, cents, lots of dashboards, which I like dashboards too. Whereas I kind of dance in the gray, dance in the ambiguity. If we were to work together, and we have in a couple projects, we flip the house, we have 2 children. There's a few things we do together, of course, but it can get pretty crazy as an entrepreneurial spirit to work together. So can you break that down for us a little bit? How does that go with the two of you?
Yeah, so we've been married for 20 something years. I couldn't even tell you the number. I've got 4 kids. They're all adult children now. So we've seen it all, and we essentially have to park conversations. She's in Texas at the moment. I'm in Melbourne. We operate all over the place. Well, I had a conversation with her yesterday, and I said to her, this is a non-work related call. No work can be mentioned, and just have an hour chat. And we have to discuss that, because if we don't, we'll all be on the phone for 4 hours talking about work and then financing and lawyers and then, all the other stuff will get covered up. We set little rules, if that makes sense. And don't get me wrong, we break them sometimes. She started to mention something and said, look, I need to cut you off here because we can talk about this during your work hours, because I know once we start, it'll go forever.
Right. Oh, my goodness.
What's her skill set? Can I ask you that?
She's got a legal background as well. And she's a born manager. Some people have a purpose. They just walk with a strut. She's had that since I've known her. I've known her since she was 24, and she just walks with purpose. She's a Turkish national, but she's obviously an Australian citizen, but she just has this internal confidence and zest where she'll walk in a room. She doesn't put up with any nonsense. She'll just come in and just demand the room. So you ask skill set. She's so strong in terms of dealing with people. No bullshit. You can't get away with anything. She'll bring a topic to the table. I'll give you an example. We had a investor meeting. Instead of doing the whole razzle dazzle, she said, here are the red flags. This is what you need to look at. And then she just went bang, 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 bang. Watch out for these things. You need to know about them just so you don't have to discover them. She's very refreshing. Whereas I'd be doing hockey curves and all this sort of stuff. Give them what they want to hear.
Oh my goodness. It sounds like a dynamic duo. I love it. That sounds great. I love the rules. That's so smart to have a few rules.
So this is usually, I don't like the time dates things, but this is one of those situations where it's very important to me. So this is going to make the air. I'm just letting you know right now. I'm supposed to be leaving for Las Vegas in about 3.5 weeks or so here. Supposed to be staying at one of the resorts that are currently having issues. We'll say it politely. And they're still having issues multiple weeks later. I was told by a colleague of mine in the industry that you'd be surprised how often certain little things happen like that, but don't make the mainstream news. So just wondering, what's your take on this whole Vegas thing? Or is my contact correct that little things like this happen all the time in Vegas, but they do a pretty good job of not making sure it hits the mainstream?
It's absolutely rampant. It is rampant. So,
don't tell me that. Oh, my
it's
God.
Absolutely rampant. Your government and the Australian government are trying to make it so that you have to report if this happens because it's happening under the table. So I'll give you an example. I've got companies calling me who don't know how to deal with Bitcoin saying we've got a ransom payment. Can you work with the hackers so we can get a key to decrypt our data? This is not an uncommon. They'll talk to me via a Gmail account or Hotmail. They won't talk to me via an enterprise account. So it's audit free. They'll ask me to meet at like a pub, a bar. So it's not an official calendar event. So there's no, we met at a hotel or we met at a conference facility. They make it so it's off the book so that they get audited, that no one knows about it.
There's no calendars that can be subpoenaed ever. Let's put it like that. Right?
Exactly right. I mean, I've had meetings in a bar where everyone's just talking really loudly. I think it's the stupidest place. But the guy who organized it knew exactly what he was doing because it's just a public bar.
Not the old Vegas. The old Vegas had their own criminal enterprise.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so Chris, I have to talk to you a bit about your book. You're the author of Baby Harvest, a book based on criminals and terrorists using virtual babies. So virtual babies and fake deaths for financing. I'd love for you to share with our viewers or listeners, their YouTube and audio here today, how hackers are creating fake people and using them. You know, AI and ChatGPT everywhere. Everyone's hot on that topic. And I did get to hear, I don't recall which news source. I wish I could credit them right now. But it was a mom who received a call from her daughter saying, Mom, don't ask many questions. But they took me last night from so-and-so's house. Like, she had details. And they're asking for $14,000. And the mom's like, if I recall the story correctly, the mom's like, well, okay. But the mom didn't have it. So mom hung up and did what she needed to do, which was call the friend's house. And sure enough, someone just faked it with AI. But you're talking about, man, a whole lot of fake people in the world and how they're running around. So can you talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So look, I'm not an author by trade, but when I do one of these talks, when I told you I did 4 years of research and present, I essentially have to document that research into a book. So one of my talks was how to kill someone or how to burst somebody. I was watching the news in Australia in 2015 where a hospital, instead of discharging 200 patients, they actually marked them as deceased when they left the hospital. And I'm thinking, how could this possibly happen? How in this day and age could this happen? So that led me to do some research in the birth and death industry. When you die, a doctor will fill out half a form on how you died, and then they will hand that to the funeral director, where you're buried and next of kin, all that sort of stuff. That gets handed into the birth, death and registration index, and they will then mark you as dead. And then you can close down your accounts and all that sort of stuff. They moved that online, all countries around the world. So essentially, doctors could fill out their portion online, funeral directors online, and then you're marked as dead. The problem with that is with doctors, they're a pain in the ass when it comes to non-medical related things. They made it really easy for them to register for this thing. They essentially needed your doctor's registration number, which is public, by the way, because you need to see whether your doctor's public or not. And then the address of the doctor's practice. Now, anyone can have that information. So a hacker like myself could essentially be a doctor, and then you could register yourself to be a funeral director. So you actually fill out both sides of the form online, and you could kill somebody. You could also burst somebody. So you could burst somebody and kill somebody at the same time. The beauty of that is things like insurance. So for example, I birth a fake person, kill them at 18 and get their insurance policy and life insurance and stuff like that. You can register, say, 10,000 fake people, buy firearms, drugs, whatever you want to do, and they're not real people, and then kill them off when you finish.
Wow.
Oh, God.
I mean, junior high would have been a whole lot more interesting if you could, get rid of one of the mean girls on paper. That is, just on paper. She's not getting a job this year.
I used to call them shelf babies. So you can bankrupt them, put them on the shelf for, 3 to 5 years and then bring them back to life again. You're dealing with virtual people. The scope is really large of what you can do as a criminal.
Well, especially
so really some of these, I was going to say just how often that governments really need to reach out to somebody just like you to say, hey, we're thinking about doing this thing and moving it online. Could we chat with you first and find the holes? But they didn't even consider all the holes.
Yeah, you've got the government wanting to move online because I'll say in the old days that, 10 years ago, you would have a local facility in a town hall that would burn down and all those records would be lost. It's like, we can't have that. We need accurate birth death numbers so we know to put in freeways where the new McDonald's is going to be and all that sort of stuff. So they've got caught between a rock and a hard places. We need to move it online. We need to make it easier for doctors, but they don't see the detriment of stuff like that.
So my brain automatically goes to between NFTs and crypto and stuff like that. Like, you could do massive damage to a business, like bankrupt a business overnight.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So like, here's where I'm going with this whole thing, Chris. Let me tell you my experience. Week 1 of law school, they told us something, and that is the whole, like, with great power comes great responsibility. Basically, they said, you're going to learn how to do things, whether it's arguments, whether it's being able to separate yourself emotionally from the school bus full of children that just crashed and died. You're going to start calculating dollar amounts immediately and not even think twice about it. And that comes naturally, and it's going to be a power. It's going to have a responsibility. Mike Tyson can't walk down the street and punch somebody in the face without having consequences. You can't have an argument, for instance, with a everyday human being, say a spouse, significant other, without having some pretty big consequences. My point is, we became indoctrinated all at one time. And the whole point, hopefully, is that most of us use that power for good. We do the right thing with it. Where does your moral compass and colleagues of yours, like, the fact that you have such great power, and you seem like such a good guy, like where does this balance come from? Is it deep? Is it a mindset thing? Is it spiritual? It just seems like there's this bigger responsibility that you have to the world, to humanity.
You raise a great question, Matt. And it's a quite deep question to ask. In my professional world, there's a lot of people who think exactly like you. They were indoctrinated young, protect the sick and all that sort of stuff. But there's another criminal element, which you get anywhere. But in my profession, where I say it's such a good question is a lot of your listeners are listening so they can't see, but you see on my left-hand shoulder, you can see the word disobey. Our culture is the opposite of yours. So anyone who's told us, trust the government or do this or do that, we ignore that because we know that it's almost like a power play. They want you to do something that you don't want to do. We are told to throw anything that we've been taught along the way. So to strip that whole, you were raised a certain way, do this and you won't get audited, do this and you can have dinner in front of the TV. So you said great power comes great responsibility. We don't have that responsibility. I'm saying an element of my group just don't care about the effects of that. There's people like me who will create AI. You mentioned, Nicole, about AI. Think of AI on steroids. I talked about creating 10,000 people. Think of AI now creating 1 million people around the world at one time. So all of a sudden you have huge responsibility, something that we've never even fathomed before, that can cause absolute havoc, like you said, Matt, crashing a hedge fund or share trading. Yeah. And we're going to see that. I can't stress enough that we're going to see some huge impact with not only the advent of AI, but then quantum computing on top of that, where you can make multiple decisions at once. So don't get me wrong, quantum computing, great, make multiple decisions at once. How do we cure cancer? Boom, quantum computing will fix that when the time's right. But you can also do quantum havoc with hackers as well. And there's a huge group of us who would do either side of the fence to make $1. So not all of us are good. We didn't all go to law school, and 99.9% will come out good. Essentially, we didn't go to any school. Most hackers don't go to school or university, self-taught, and their own moral compass will dictate where they go. So we're the worst people to have this responsibility.
Yeah, Matt, you said something.
Moral compass. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
Well, Matt, you said something like being good, but I think that in this conversation, that's subjective. It's like the word quality. I cannot stand the word when someone's like, oh, this is quality product. Quality to what? Quality to the last bad product you had? Quality to the superior product that you did have? It just is based on their last experience. So it isn't really fair to be like, oh, well, quote, you seem like a good guy. I'm sure lots of good guys. It is what it is. It's the right choice at the right time.
It's that individual moral compass of what they are determining to be, quote, right or good or bad, because that's all subjective. I get that. So now.
And that's why I said it was such a good question. And I'll give you an example, Matt. So you've got an American journalist who happened to get caught in Libya, and she's in a Libyan jail cell. The American government don't want to deal with the situation because they've got diplomats involved. The Libyans want, 10 people in this region to be freed, like political prisoners. Someone might reach out to me and say, look, she needs feminine hygiene products. Can you get Bitcoin to this guard so she can get what she needs? So I then make, like you said, a moral choice, because I'm now circumventing probably 2 different governments to get what she needs, but it's the right thing to do.
Not all heroes wear capes, folks.
That's right.
Not all heroes wear capes.
But they do all have a VPN.
But they do all have a VPN.
In fact, that's be my new line. My line is usually like, have laptop, we'll travel. Now I'm going to be like, have VPN, we'll travel. So let's talk about TED Global, TED Talks. Tell me that story about TED.
Yes, I was in New York at the time, and then I got reached out by TED and said, look, we've seen what you did at DEFCON 23 and 24, that was 2015, 2016, about how to overthrow a government, was my last talk with a Cyber Mercenary. And they said, we want you to do a talk on professional hackers, Cyber Mercenary. And I said, awesome. So I went through the whole process with TED, got my script approved. The legal goes through my whole script. They make sure everything I've stated is 100% correct. And then the speakers at TED said to me just before my talk, this is 2019, they said to me, you did these hacks 3 years ago. Have you got anything more recent to show us? And I took that as a bit of a challenge. And I essentially hacked into all the TED organizers and gave them all their loan statements, all their credit ratings and their email addresses and all that stuff, and presented that back to them. And apparently they didn't like that. And I actually got kicked off the TED talking circuit. Now, my argument is you're dealing with a scorpion. Sometimes you're going to get bitten. And apparently they didn't see it that way. And it was quite interesting that they're okay showing other people's hacks, but they didn't like it. It was more of a personal thing. I understand, probably crossed the line. But for me, it was like, you've asked a crazy question. You've asked me to prove who I am. I proved who I am. and you didn't like it, but that's fine. It's great to talk about. I would have loved to have done the TED talk, and it's a great topic. Cyber Mercenary is awesome. The stuff that I've seen around the world is so cool.
It just shows like how the rest of us live in this, even when we're stressed out and we're annoyed by the news that we see, we live in this bubble. We don't realize what's possible. So they didn't know what they were asking for. That's for sure. They certainly didn't know.
So I guess my brain automatically goes on this path of basically we have to trust SIEMonster and what they're providing services to give them the access to our information to hopefully prevent other people from accessing our information. And at the end of the day, it sounds crazy, but we are 100% relying on your moral compass. You almost in this world have to be able to really trust the person you're giving this access to and asking to protect this information with, right?
Yeah, so I'll give you a long answer to that question. So when we were professional hackers, we'd hack into a company. The companies had no idea we're even in there. So, like a month or 2 months later, we'd produce a report to say, look, we've been in here, we hacked in 27 different ways from Sunday, and here's the report. And they had no idea. We've also hacked into companies who have had hackers on their network, like you said about the email, sitting there dormant for 18 months. We've had them sitting there for 5 years. And they were essentially siphoning off data and then selling that in the Middle East. So what we do is we sell a software so that you can detect hackers in your network. So this is not a SIEMonster's monitoring your data. We give you the solution to put in your network, and what you do with it is completely up to you. So when I say we detect, our software detects what your network should be doing in the first place. For those who don't understand security, think of it like physical security. You've got guard dogs at the front, you've got proximity, you've got video cameras. We provide you that stuff, and it's up to you then to look for those alerts.
That helped me understand. Chris is not showing up, hanging out at your company, sitting down with Susie at the front desk to review her protocols, right, for opening emails, because you're purchasing the tool.
And the beauty of that story is if someone clicks on an email and it's got a ransomware, this tool and other tools like it, I'm not going to, be the spruiker of my tool, this tool will actually clobber that attack. Susie, the receptionist, will be completely removed from the network so she can't then send emails out to anybody else. And have that automated flow to protect the network from the weakest link, which is the human factor.
So really, I mean, who better to create this type of software than a hacker? So you're still back to your dilemma, Matt, of like, so I got to trust the hacker. But aren't we all trusting hackers like all over right now? If the culture says we do what we want, right? We resist any do, should, or whatnots. Really, we're all trusting hackers at all times. At all times.
And we call it red team and blue team. So red is outside, blue is internal. So your blue team is your MGM protectors at Las Vegas. And then you've got your red team hackers coming from the outside. As professional hackers, we get to put different hats on so we can actually hack in from the outside, protect from the inside. And it's those sort of tools and techniques that we're learning off each other, because normally they're specialized now between blue and red, that you then can create a tool suite to protect, again, the human factor, which is the weakest link into any company.
Wow.
Incredible.
Wow.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Incredible.
Chris, could this fake death certificate / birth certificates be used to impact, say, elections or overthrow governments and things like that?
Yes. You raise a great example. You've got 330 million odd people in the US. You then, created 35 million people just sitting dormant waiting for the time. Then they all start, registering to vote. And then you sway an election. And it's your mind that's limited. The criminals will work that out on how they can take advantage of that.
Okay, yes. I don't want to go too political on the show, but my God, would that be scary? Talk about overthrowing a government.
That's why I did that talk with Simon Mann. Simon Mann is actually a real coup mercenary. He spent, I think, 7 years in jail in Equatorial Guinea, where he overthrows governments physically. Now, I reached out to him and saying, what you do is really interesting. Have you looked at the digital element, like the cyber? So him and I then did an exercise in Q8 where what could we compromise to create a coup type event in the Middle East? And so we worked together on what to take down. Telcos, power, all that sort of stuff. And we work together on how the dominoes fall to take over a country digitally without having any guns on the street.
My gosh. Wow.
You said something really, really powerful. You said your mind is the limit. And you said it so quick, so I don't want anybody to lose it. But I think that's true. I know that's true in business and in life and wherever we're going. And I'm not trying to get woo-woo with like manifestation. I'm just talking about like our mind is the limit. And you're just like opening ours up so much, like Matt to ask that question or us to ask another. That's an incredible way to walk through life. Who taught you that? Where'd you walk away with that from?
No one taught me that. I'll give you a longer story. We're probably out of time, but it's probably important, especially for entrepreneurs. We talk about gut feel. We talk about third eye. We talk about all that sort of stuff. I'm no Zen Buddhist sort of person, but I understand the whole difference between conscious and subconscious. We absorb 500 times more information on our subconscious than our conscious. And this is why you see things like artists who will have pen and paper beside their bed. They write something just before they go to sleep because they're falling asleep and they move between that subconscious, unconscious state. They'll write it down because they will forget it in the morning. Your body does that by design because it needs to keep things in conscious thought and subconscious. So not to be all Buddhisty, but if you meditate or you then get to a state where your subconscious is doing essentially the thinking for you, all the things that you absorbed as a child, all the programming you got between 0 and 7, that comes out. And as an entrepreneur, you really touch in on that when you find some quiet time. So I'll give you an example. I'm doing a pricing policy for SIEMonster. I'll write down, I need to do a pricing policy for SIEMonster. I'll go and do something else. You're not allowed to watch TV because your conscious thought is too busy. You got to wash the dishes, mow the lawn, take the kids to school, whatever you got to do. And you will not touch that for at least a day, and then you'll come back to it, and your subconscious has already been doing all the thinking for you, which is 95% of your brain power. And all of a sudden, you'll sit down in front of your pricing policy, and you'll boom, it'll just come out. And it's one of those, you get this gut feeling, it's like, this is so right, it's not complex, easy to understand. But my conscious thought would have screwed it up, would have made it this, small tier, medium tier, large tier, extra large tier. Oh, it screwed it. But subconscious knows everything, and that gut feel, if you don't ignore it, will push you through your business.
That is so good. You mentioned 4 kiddos. How in the world do you let them out of your sight? I feel like I'm nervous for your kids. I'm like, man, how do you protect them from all the dangers that that are lurking out there? Like are they all walking around with,
that's what I'm thinking about.
Did they have their first password vault when they were 13?
No, and I let them get compromised. So, they've got Instagram and Facebook and they fall for all that sort of stupid stuff. And you both will know, if I'm trying to get budget for a company and their normal budget's $1 million, and when they get hacked, all of a sudden their budget's $10 million. So when the kids learn from a compromise, as a kid, who cares whether, Facebook or Instagram, all that sort of junk gets compromised? But it's a great learning curve for them. It's like, okay, how do you protect yourself? Look, I can't even get my kids to shut the front door when I leave, the property. I can't tell them, a password manager because they're just, I'm not going to say they're stupid, but man, they're stupid. You know what I mean? They just don't know. They got no thinking for that sort of stuff.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Tell me, what is one of the key lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur? Maybe it's a mantra that you find yourself saying again and again.
For me, it's like, just be thankful that you've had the experience of doing a round raise or dealing with lawyers or accountants and stuff that you wouldn't normally have had in a 9-to-5 position. When I say be thankful, it's like, we're so lucky to have that exposure. And I know that if I went into another company, a serial entrepreneur, the skills that you have learned, whether you're setting up a CRM and stuff like that, normally those decisions are taken up. It's just like, I'll say thank you, God, but just thank you, whoever, for giving me the ability to experience this in a lifetime.
That's been the best answer I've ever heard in the show. Thankful for the experience to speak and work with a lawyer. Chris, I got to be honest. I don't know if you wrote that down before the show. You knew this question was coming, but that was good. That was really good. In fact, this just became my favorite show ever. Sorry, every other guest. Sorry.
Favorite episode? Yes.
Favorite episode. Let me ask you this, Chris. Time, money, impact. How would you define your entrepreneurial success?
My success is what I've learned, whether it be failure, because that learning for me is the key. Yeah, what have I learned? How can I apply that to the next company?
Awesome. Tell us, where is the number one place that people can find you, learn more about what you have to offer?
Just go to chrisrockhacker.com. You'll see everything that I've ever produced, every video, every podcast, every book, every paper. It's all up there.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I have another question. So we watch the crime shows. We saw 24 with Jack Bauer, right? Chloe, his right hand, she'd hack into anything for him. Some hackers never want their faces or names to be known. So you're out there, you're sharing all your stuff because you are selling software. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a conscious choice that I've made to not hide who I actually am. So there's a lot of hackers who will always be that whole straight lace, I would never hack into that. But it's all bullshit. When you actually speak to them, they do. And I didn't want to live that life. I'm happy to sit on both the right side of the fence and be true to who I am and present that. And then it's natural. There's no lying or there's no bullshit. It's just straight. This is who I am. Take it. Yeah. Don't like it. Don't respect me. He's bad. He's good. We don't know who he is. We don't trust him. It doesn't matter. It's just who I am. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, like Chloe on 24. We all know who she was. We love her. All the things she do. Good, bad, and different. She was always on Jack's side. That's what mattered. Okay. You have been a breath of fresh air, my friend.
No, you two are fantastic. I love talking to people like yourself. We all come from different worlds, and it's lovely to just communicate on all our different skill sets together, and we all learn.
Ah, right. So incredible. And you're such a personality too. I just really got a kick out of this episode for sure. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Chris.
Hey, it's Nicole, and that's the end of the interview. But stick around. This is the part where Matt and I break it all down and give you our favorite takeaways. Listen in. So, Matt, we just met with Chris Rock of Melbourne, Australia.
Yes.
To be clear, why don't you go first? What do you got?
All right. Right off the bat is my mind got blown because I wanted to try to put him into a box of good and bad, right? Like, oh, you're a good guy, or, oh, that's bad people, or you did bad things. Even to the point where I was like, oh, tell me the story about when the government came into your house at 13 years old because you're doing bad things. By the end of this conversation, I got to the point of a deeper, more profound understanding probably of ethics and morals, just that basically at the end of the day, it's not good, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong, it's indifferent. And frankly, depending on the situation at the moment in time when that decision is being made, hopefully humanity would prevail. And it seems like it does for the most part. That's probably the most profound thing that came from me today. It just hit me all of a sudden, like, wow, as a lawyer,
Yeah, it was so funny to watch you as the lawyer, be like, well, when you reformed, or that you put him in the box of good guy because he's on our show. Well, of course, right? He must be a good guy. He paid an agency to get in touch. Like, surely, a good guy. Did you use the word upstanding somewhere? I don't know. But you used the word reform, you used moral compass, and he echoed that back to you. But I remember there was something you said that it was like, it's just really subjective, right? Like at that moment in time, he's making the best choice that he can make for him or his family or his business or the client that he has. I love the example that he gave us. And it just reminds me still of that Spider-Man quote, but legit, the superheroes we've grown up with do bad things, right? They do bad things for the greater good, like those ethics classes that we may have been involved at IU that tried to teach us like, do the ends justify the means, and how much that we really are trusting hackers all over the world right now.
I was having the Robin Hood moment, like do the bad thing, steal from the rich to give to the poor. Like it was like this weird moral issue when I was in myself, even listening to like, what do I think? What do I feel? It doesn't even matter anymore. Like, why are we on the show today?
Doesn't matter anymore. Yes, I love that. Which brought me to the second takeaway that I had was he turned to you and he was like, your mind is your limit. And then he like came up with these other examples that it's only your mind that sets the limit. You were walking into this. I got to watch it. Like, I am in a different room than you. I got to watch you kind of walk through this and him say like, it's only your mind that's your limit. And he said it just really quickly. He's a quick chat, he talks fast, but it was just this powerful moment of like, yeah, it's only what we dream up. And here is somebody who is a cyber mercenary, right? Is total hacker since he was a kid. And it's only our mind is the limit. I'm so glad he went there with us on how many different ways that shows up for us. Not just imagine what you could overthrow if you had this power. Imagine what you could do, what you could accomplish. And it's just a really incredible way to think about our work as entrepreneurs. Just our mind. That's the only limit.
Ditto. So I'm going to say ditto.
Okay, so the last one. Yeah. Let's just recap quickly. And folks, go back to the beginning. It's early on in the show. He gave us a few things, but let's just highlight the three things that he said. And that just reminds me that if we're not doing these easy things, we're being lazy. And if we're being lazy about it, it's only until that one time that we all get hacked. So 2-factor authentication on everything, he said.
Mm-hmm.
A password vault. I love LastPass. I have used 1Password before. I like LastPass because I can share passwords. Like I can send you my password and I can mark it if I don't want you to see the password, which is really great for my clients. When they send me passwords, they just have to share it with me. I don't have to see it. So if they want to change it or update it regularly, it just gets updated and I don't have to update my records.
Does that work for VAs too as well? For those out there using VAs, like you can use it to leverage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So anybody, like whoever you're working with. So Kyle and I have the same password vault as well. Not only do we have like a shared folder, but at any time that he needs to hop into something, it's there for him. So
awesome.
Yeah, highly recommend. So spouse, VAs, teams, client work, anything, you name it. And then the other one was VPN, which I don't go everywhere with my VPN, but you probably should.
Yeah. That's what just made me go, wow, like I need to be,
lawyers, easy targets, man. Easy targets.
Yeah. That was not fun to hear.
Sober moment for Matt here, that's for sure.
Yes,
today,
exactly.
If you're listening, we'd love to hear your comments on this one, friends. This one blew our mind for sure. We'd love to have him back and hear some more, maybe from his wife too and his co-founder. That'd be great. Well, if you're listening, you know what we say.
Keep listening.
You've been listening to the Serial Entrepreneur Show, produced by the team here at SmartCookie Media.